Breaking. A major White House announcement just sent shockwaves across America. Both President Trump and former President Biden have publicly responded, and millions of Americans will see direct changes to their wallets starting next month. This is urgent. Good evening, and welcome back to Zenvio News USA, your most trusted source for critical updates that impact your life and your family's future. Within the past 72 hours, the White House has unveiled a sweeping new executive directive that's already creating fierce debate in Washington and anxiety in living rooms across the nation. This isn't just another political headline you can scroll past. This decision directly affects Social Security benefits, Medicare coverage, veteran support programs, and federal assistance that over 70 million Americans depend on every single month. What makes this moment truly unprecedented is that both the current administration and the former president have issued strongly worded public statements, revealing a deep divide over what this means for everyday Americans. Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill are scrambling to respond, and state governors are already preparing their own reactions. The implementation timeline is aggressive. Changes could begin as early as March 1st, which means you have less than 3 weeks to understand what's coming. By the end of this report, you'll know exactly what's been announced, who will be impacted, how much money is at stake, and most importantly, what steps you should take right now. Critical details are still emerging, so stay with us until the very end, because what happens in the next few weeks could shape your financial security for years to come. Let's get straight to the facts. On Monday afternoon, the White House released what officials are calling the Fiscal Stability and Benefits Protection Initiative. This comprehensive policy package introduces fundamental changes to how the federal government calculates, verifies, and distributes benefits to tens of millions of Americans. The official document spans 134 pages, but here's what you need to know in plain language. The centerpiece of this initiative involves reforming the cost of living adjustment formula, commonly known as COLA, which determines how much Social Security, disability payments, and veteran benefits increase each year to keep pace with inflation. Currently, these adjustments are based on the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners. Under the new proposal, the government would shift to what economists call the chained CPI, a different measurement that typically shows lower inflation rates. Translation? Future benefit increases would likely be smaller than under the current system. But that's not all. The directive also mandates enhanced identity verification for all federal benefit recipients, requiring biometric confirmation and updated documentation every 6 months. Officials argue this will eliminate fraud and save taxpayer dollars. Critics warn it could create bureaucratic nightmares that delay or deny legitimate payments to vulnerable Americans who struggle with technology or lack proper documentation. Additionally, the proposal includes means testing adjustments for Medicare Part B and Part D premiums. Higher-income seniors would see their monthly healthcare costs increase, while lower-income beneficiaries might qualify for additional subsidies. The White House insists these reforms are necessary to ensure long-term solvency of critical programs. Administration officials claim the changes will save approximately $237 billion over the next decade, while protecting benefits for those who need them most. But millions of Americans are asking the same question. Will I be worse off? Let's talk about who faces the biggest impact from these changes. First and foremost, Social Security recipients. We're talking about roughly 67 million Americans who receive retirement, disability, or survivor benefits. If the chained CPI becomes the standard measurement, the average retiree could see benefit increases reduced by approximately $20 to $40 per month compared to the current formula. That might not sound like much, but over a decade, we're looking at thousands of dollars in lost purchasing power for seniors living on fixed incomes. Medicare beneficiaries, particularly those in middle and upper middle income brackets, face premium increases. Anyone earning more than $106,000 as an individual or $212,000 as a couple would see their Part B premiums rise. We're talking about an additional $800 to $2,400 per year for approximately 8 million Medicare recipients. Veterans receiving disability compensation and pension benefits would also be affected by the new COLA formula. Organizations representing over 2 million disabled veterans have already voiced strong concerns about reduced purchasing power for those who sacrifice their health in service to our country. Here's where it gets personal. Imagine you're a 72-year-old widow living in Ohio, receiving $1,680 per month in Social Security. Under the current system, you'd expect a yearly increase that helps you keep up with rising costs for groceries, medications, and utilities. Under the proposed change, your annual increase might be $180 less over the next 5 years. When you're already choosing between prescription medications and heating your home during winter, every dollar matters. Or consider a disabled veteran in Texas receiving compensation for service-connected injuries. The new verification requirements mean you'd need to resubmit documentation, undergo biometric scanning, and potentially face payment delays if there's any issue with the system. For someone managing chronic pain and limited mobility, navigating additional bureaucracy isn't just inconvenient, it's genuinely difficult. Working families receiving SNAP benefits, housing assistance, or earned income tax credits could also see changes. The proposal includes stricter work requirements and more frequent eligibility reviews. An estimated 4.3 million households could face reduced benefits or additional compliance burdens. Now let's examine the financial and economic implications, because the ripple effects extend far beyond individual checks. Economic analysts project these changes could reduce consumer spending by approximately $19 billion annually. That might sound abstract, but here's what it means in the real world. When 67 million Social Security recipients have less money in their pockets, they spend less at grocery stores, pharmacies, restaurants, and local businesses. Small business owners in communities with large senior populations could see reduced revenue. From a household budget perspective, let's run the numbers on a typical scenario. A married couple, both 68 years old, currently receiving a combined $3,200 per month in Social Security. They also pay $340 monthly for Medicare Part B premiums. Under the proposed changes, their annual COLA increase would be approximately $420 less than under current law. If their income puts them in the higher premium category, their Medicare costs could increase by $140 per month, or $1,680 annually. Combined, they're looking at roughly $2,100 less in annual purchasing power. That's a mortgage payment. That's property taxes. That's a year's worth of utilities for many Americans. The administration argues that wealthier seniors can afford to contribute more to Medicare and that preventing fraud will strengthen programs for everyone. Treasury Department projections suggest the reforms could extend Social Security's solvency by an estimated 7 years, delaying potential across-the-board benefit cuts that would hit everyone much harder. But economists on the other side warn that reduced benefit growth hits hardest those who live the longest, typically women and minorities who already face higher poverty rates in old age. They argue that savings from means testing are minimal compared to the administrative costs and potential harm to middle-class retirees who planned their retirement based on current benefit structures. Here's where it gets serious. The political response has been swift and sharply divided. President Trump defended the initiative in a statement released Tuesday evening, saying, "We are restoring fiscal sanity while protecting the Americans who built this country. These reforms ensure Social Security and Medicare will be there for our children and grandchildren. We're eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse while asking those who can afford it to pay their fair share." Former President Biden issued a counterstatement calling the proposal a direct attack on the sacred promise we made to America's seniors and veterans. He argued that changing the COLA formula is a benefit cut disguised as reform, and pledged that Democrats would fight the changes with everything they have. Congressional reaction has fallen along predictable party lines, but with some notable exceptions. Republican senators from Florida, Arizona, and Pennsylvania, states with large senior populations, have expressed concerns about the political backlash. One Republican senator told reporters, "I support fiscal responsibility, but I need to understand how this affects my constituents before I can support it." Democratic leadership has already announced plans to introduce legislation blocking the COLA change. Senate Minority Leader stated, "We will use every procedural tool available to protect seniors from having their benefits cut." Advocacy organizations have mobilized quickly. AARP, representing 38 million members, called the proposal unacceptable and announced a nationwide campaign to oppose it. Veteran service organizations have requested urgent meetings with White House officials. Legal challenges are already being prepared. Constitutional scholars are debating whether such sweeping changes can be implemented through executive action or require congressional approval. Expect lawsuits to be filed in federal court within days. But that's not all. Several state governors have announced they're exploring legal options to protect their residents. This could become a major federal versus state battle playing out in courtrooms across America. So what happens next? This is what you need to watch carefully in the coming weeks. The official implementation timeline states that COLA formula changes would take effect for calculations beginning in fiscal year 2026, meaning they'd impact the adjustment announced in October of this year. However, legal challenges could delay or block implementation entirely. The new verification requirements are scheduled to begin pilot programs in 6 states starting March 15th. Florida, Texas, California, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Arizona will require the first wave of beneficiaries to complete biometric registration. If you live in these states and receive federal benefits, watch your mail for official notices from the Social Security Administration. Medicare premium adjustments for higher earners would begin January 2026, which means they'd appear in premium notices mailed this November. Congress returns from recess on February 24th, and this will immediately dominate the legislative agenda. Watch for hearings in both the House Ways and Means Committee and the Senate Finance Committee. These will feature testimony from administration officials, benefit advocates, and affected Americans. There are 3 critical dates to mark on your calendar. March 1st. Initial legal challenges expected to be filed in federal district courts. March 15th. Pilot verification programs begin in 6 states. October 2025. If changes survive legal challenges, the new COLA formula would be used to calculate the adjustment announced for 2026 benefits. Political analysts are already predicting this becomes a defining issue in the 2026 midterm elections. Candidates in competitive districts will face intense pressure to declare where they stand. Let me be crystal clear about what this all means. The White House has announced comprehensive changes to how benefits are calculated and distributed for over 70 million Americans. The stated goal is long-term program sustainability and fraud prevention. The practical effect will likely be smaller benefit increases, higher costs for some, and increased bureaucratic requirements for many. Both the current president and the former president have staked out strong positions, guaranteeing this becomes a prolonged political battle. Congressional action, legal challenges, and public pressure will all play a role in determining what actually happens. The financial stakes are significant. Depending on your age, income, and benefit type, you could see anywhere from minimal impact to thousands of dollars in reduced benefits over the next decade. The timeline is aggressive, with some changes potentially beginning in less than a month. This is exactly the kind of story that requires you to stay informed and engaged. Your financial future could depend on understanding these changes and making your voice heard. Here's what I want you to do right now. First, make sure you're subscribed to Zenvio News USA and hit that notification bell. This story is developing rapidly, and we'll bring you every update as it happens, breaking down complex policy into information you can actually use. Second, join the conversation in the comments below. Tell us how these changes would affect you or your family. Are you a retiree concerned about COLA changes? A veteran worried about verification requirements? A working American wondering about the long-term stability of these programs? Your voice matters, and your elected representatives need to hear from you. Third, hit that like button if you found this report valuable. It helps us reach more Americans who need this critical information. We're going to stay on top of this story every single day. Congressional hearings, court decisions, state responses, new data on financial impacts, we'll cover it all with the same commitment to clear, accurate, credible reporting you've come to expect. Remember, staying informed isn't just about watching the news. It's about understanding how policy decisions in Washington affect your daily life and taking action to protect your interests. This is a developing situation with real consequences for real people. We'll continue to cut through the political rhetoric and give you the facts you need to make informed decisions. Stay informed, stay prepared, stay engaged. This is your trusted source for Zenvio News USA.